The grand ballroom shimmered with the brilliance of crystal chandeliers, their light casting a golden glow over the polished floors and impeccably dressed guests. Peter, an ambitious senior manager, moved effortlessly through the crowd, his tailored suit and practiced smile radiating confidence. His wife, Emily, stood beside him, her understated elegance overshadowed by the opulence surrounding her. Though her dress was tasteful, its simplicity seemed almost out of place amidst the sparkling gowns and designer heels. "Emily," Peter called over his shoulder, his voice brisk, "let me introduce you to the team." She followed him hesitantly, clutching her clutch bag like a lifeline. Peter's colleagues greeted him warmly, their laughter flowing easily. "This is my wife," Peter said, flashing a brief smile. "She's a homemaker, keeps things running at home while I focus on the big picture." His tone was light, but the casual dismissal of her identity stung. "How quaint," one of the women remarked, barely disguising her condescension. Emily's cheeks flushed, but she kept her composure, offering a polite nod. The group quickly returned to their discussions of promotions, corporate strategies, and extravagant vacations, leaving Emily feeling invisible. Peter, seemingly unaware, laughed along, his voice blending seamlessly with the others. Emily tried to engage, but every attempt felt like shouting into a void. The conversations rolled on without her, each word a reminder of how little she belonged in this world. Finally, one of Peter's colleagues turned to her with a bemused smile. "So, what do you do all day?" he asked. Before she could answer, Peter interjected with a chuckle, "She keeps busy, don't you, dear?" The laughter that followed felt like a dagger, each chuckle amplifying her humiliation. Excusing herself, Emily stepped onto the balcony, the cool evening air biting her skin. Tears threatened to spill, but she refused to cry. Instead, she stared at the city lights, her mind racing. She had sacrificed so much for Peter's career, yet here she was, a silent shadow in his world. Emily returned to the event, her composure carefully reassembled, only to overhear Peter bragging about his charming but simple wife. The words stabbed at her heart, leaving her wondering if Peter saw her as anything more than an accessory. As he caught sight of her, he waved her over with a grin. "Emily, they were just asking about what you do all day. Care to enlighten them?" Her mind raced. She could recount the hours spent managing their home, balancing finances, and ensuring Peter's every need was met. But what would be the point? These were accomplishments he had never valued. With a tight smile, she simply replied, "I keep busy." The group laughed as though it were a joke, and Peter joined in, patting her shoulder as if to say, "Well done." Unable to bear the humiliation any longer, Emily excused herself again. She didn't cry this time, instead, she felt a simmering resolve bubbling within her. That night, as Peter praised his own performance at the event during their drive home, Emily remained silent, her mind elsewhere. In the days following the event, Emily replayed the evening in her mind. The laughter, the comments, and Peter's indifference gnawed at her. However, one interaction stood out. Claire, a junior employee, had approached her after she left the ballroom. Claire's words were kind and empathetic. "I've been in rooms like that. It's hard to be unseen, but people like you often surprise everyone." Emily didn't know why, but those words felt like a lifeline. They reminded her of the woman she used to be, creative, ambitious, and full of potential. She realized that she had allowed herself to be diminished for too long. It was time to reclaim her identity, not for Peter or anyone else, but for herself. In the quiet of their home, while Peter busied himself with work, Emily unearthed an old portfolio from a dusty closet. Its pages contained pieces of a life she had left behind, designs, marketing strategies, and projects from her days as a budding professional. Flipping through the pages, she felt a spark of the old Emily reignite. Determined to channel her frustration into something constructive, Emily began reworking her designs, pouring hours into creating something that reflected her dormant talents. She decided to keep her work a secret, knowing Peter would likely dismiss it as a passing whim. One morning, as Peter left for work, Emily sat at the kitchen table with a laptop and a notebook. She had started to research freelance opportunities in design and marketing, fields she once thrived in. With every project she completed, her confidence grew. She realized that her skills hadn't faded, they had merely been waiting for her to rediscover them. Each chapter that follows will expand on her rise, Peter's realization of his mistakes, and the unfolding revelation of her hidden brilliance. The narrative will interweave moments of suspense, emotional growth, and powerful lessons on respect, value, and the courage to stand up for oneself. Emily's days became a flurry of secret activity. As Peter left for work each morning, she retreated to her study, the once-forgotten portfolio now her constant companion. She poured herself into new projects, designing logos, creating mock advertisements, and refining strategies. Each completed piece felt like reclaiming a fragment of the person she had once been. One evening, as Peter sat absorbed in his phone, Emily placed an envelope on the coffee table. "What's this?" he asked, not bothering to look up. "Something you should read," she replied, her tone calm but firm. Peter nodded dismissively, setting the envelope aside without another glance. Inside, Emily had written a letter detailing the sacrifices she had made for their life together, the hurt caused by his dismissive attitude, and her decision to rediscover her own worth. Attached was a selection of her portfolio, showcasing the brilliance he had failed to see. The envelope waited, its contents a quiet challenge Peter had yet to face. 2 weeks later, Peter prepared for a major presentation at his firm's quarterly review. Emily, uninvited but undeterred, decided to attend. She sat quietly in the back, watching as Peter struggled with his slides. The projector faltered, and the room descended into murmurs of discontent. Emily saw an opportunity. She rose from her seat, stepped forward, and calmly addressed the room. "I can help," she said, her voice steady but firm. In minutes, she corrected the technical issue and seamlessly transitioned into an impromptu explanation of Peter's data, adding insights that left the audience impressed. The room erupted in applause, but Peter's face darkened. Later, he confronted Emily. "Why did you do that?" he demanded. "You made me look incompetent." Emily looked him square in the eye. "I helped you when you needed it. If that embarrassed you, perhaps you should ask yourself why." Peter's irritation simmered long after the event. At dinner that evening, he barely spoke, his pride clearly bruised. When Emily tried to discuss her actions, he brushed her off, accusing her of trying to overshadow him. "You've never cared about this world before," he said coldly. "Why start now?" Emily calmly placed the envelope back in front of him. "If you think I'm trying to compete with you, read this." Her tone was measured, but her words carried weight. Peter hesitated, his curiosity piqued, but his pride held him back. He left the envelope untouched. Late one night, Peter found himself unable to sleep. Restless, he retrieved the envelope from the coffee table and opened it. The portfolio stunned him, each design radiated creativity, precision, and vision. But it was the letter that left him speechless. "I have supported you in silence, not because I am weak, but because I believed in you," Emily had written. But your words and actions have reduced me to a shadow. I deserve to be seen, not just as your wife, but as someone who has value beyond this home. Peter reread the letter, the weight of her words settling heavily on his chest. Memories of her quiet sacrifices flashed before him, the late nights she stayed up helping him rehearse presentations, the countless meals she prepared after long days, and her unwavering support during his lowest moments. Peter spent the night rereading the letter. Memories of their life together flooded his mind, the nights Emily stayed up late preparing his meals, the unwavering support she offered during his struggles, and the quiet strength she displayed in every challenge. He realized that he had taken her sacrifices for granted, mistaking her support for passivity. For the first time, Peter felt the weight of his actions, or lack thereof. He resolved to make amends but wasn't sure if he deserved the chance. At the firm's next event, Peter made an unexpected announcement. As the room buzzed with anticipation, he called Emily to the stage. "This is my wife, Emily," he began, his voice steady but full of emotion. "For years, I've underestimated her brilliance and strength. Tonight, I want to acknowledge her for the extraordinary person she is." Emily stood frozen, unsure of how to respond. The room erupted in applause, but she remained guarded, uncertain if Peter's words were genuine or performative. As Emily's portfolio gained traction, offers began to pour in. She chose to work as a freelancer, enjoying the freedom to create on her terms. Her first major client? Peter's firm, secured through the recommendation of Claire, now a rising star in the company. Emily's work quickly became the backbone of several successful campaigns, earning her respect and admiration from the same people who once dismissed her. Peter watched with a mix of pride and humility, realizing how wrong he had been. Emily's first freelance project was a rebranding campaign for a small eco-friendly startup. She poured her heart into it, working late into the night to deliver something exceptional. The project turned out to be a huge success, earning widespread praise and tripling the client's engagement metrics. Word of her talent began to spread, bringing more opportunities her way. Peter watched from the sidelines, torn between pride and regret. He couldn't help but marvel at the creative force Emily had always been but that he had failed to see. For the first time, he felt an unfamiliar pang of insecurity. His wife was now shining in a way he hadn't anticipated, and it forced him to confront the reasons he had belittled her before. At a networking event, Peter overheard a conversation between two executives discussing a brilliant freelancer they were eager to hire. When they mentioned Emily's name, Peter froze. "She's got an eye for design and a mind for strategy," one of them said. "Her work is leagues ahead of others in the industry." The realization struck Peter like a lightning bolt. Emily had become the professional he always dreamed of being, and she had done it without his support. It wasn't jealousy he felt, but a deep sense of shame for not having encouraged her sooner. As Emily's career took off, the dynamics at home shifted. Peter, who had once been the center of their household, now found himself taking a back seat. Emily's growing independence left him grappling with his identity, forcing him to question his worth beyond his job. One evening, as they sat across from each other at dinner, Emily asked, "How's work?" It was the first time in weeks she had initiated a conversation. Peter hesitated before replying honestly, "It's fine. But I think I've been neglecting what matters most, us." Emily didn't respond immediately, but her softened expression showed she appreciated his candor. Emily met a seasoned designer named Victoria through a mutual client. Victoria, impressed by Emily's work, took her under her wing, offering advice and connections to bigger projects. Their mentorship blossomed into a friendship, giving Emily the confidence to take on larger challenges. Peter noticed how Emily's confidence and demeanor had changed. She carried herself with a grace and assurance he hadn't seen before. It reminded him of the woman he had fallen in love with, and he resolved to be a better partner to her moving forward. Late one evening, Peter approached Emily in the study where she worked. He stood silently for a moment before saying, "I owe you an apology, not just for that night at the event, but for years of taking you for granted." Emily paused her work, looking at him with curiosity. "I never meant to diminish you," he continued, "but I see now how much I did." Emily listened quietly, her expression unreadable. "I appreciate you saying that," she finally replied. "But words only go so far, Peter. Actions matter more." Her response was firm but fair, leaving Peter determined to prove himself worthy of her trust. Emily's next project involved a collaboration with Claire's team at Peter's firm. Peter observed her professionalism and the respect she commanded in meetings. Watching her work, he realized she wasn't just helping his company succeed, she was redefining its creative vision. For the first time, Peter began advocating for Emily's contributions within his firm. He even suggested her for a high-stakes campaign, putting his reputation on the line to ensure she got the recognition she deserved. Emily's breakthrough campaign at Peter's firm became a resounding success. At a celebratory dinner, Peter was invited to speak. Taking the microphone, he hesitated before addressing the room. "Tonight's success is not just a reflection of this company's talent," he began. "It's a testament to the creativity and brilliance of my wife, Emily." The room erupted in applause as Emily blushed, her surprise evident. Peter continued, "For years, I failed to recognize the depth of her talent. Tonight, I want to acknowledge her not just as my wife, but as a visionary." Emily met his gaze, her expression softening. It was a start, a moment of recognition she had waited far too long to receive. Emily's confidence soared as she secured her first international client, a boutique hotel chain looking to revamp its branding. It was a high-stakes project requiring her to merge creativity with cultural sensitivity. Late nights and early mornings became the norm as she dove into research, ensuring her designs captured the essence of the brand while appealing to a global audience. When the campaign launched, it was met with acclaim, earning her not just praise but also more offers from international businesses. Peter, observing her success, felt both awe and pride. "I've always known you were talented," he said over dinner one night. Emily smiled but gently corrected him, "It's not just talent, Peter. It's the belief that I can do it, something I've had to build on my own." Peter couldn't shake the discomfort Emily's words left behind. He realized he needed to confront his own shortcomings if he ever wanted to truly support her. Reluctantly, he began attending therapy, something he had always dismissed as unnecessary. In therapy, Peter unpacked years of deeply ingrained insecurities, his need to dominate conversations, his dismissal of others' contributions, and his fear of being overshadowed. It was painful but illuminating. Slowly, he began to see how his actions had been rooted in fear rather than malice. Emily's success attracted attention from aspiring designers seeking mentorship. One young woman, Claire, reminded Emily of her younger self, full of potential but unsure of her worth. Taking Claire under her wing, Emily guided her through the complexities of the industry, teaching her not only the craft but also the importance of self-advocacy. Peter noticed how natural Emily was in this role. "You're shaping more than designs," he told her one evening. "You're shaping futures." Emily simply replied, "I'm just giving others the support I wish I'd had." Peter began attending Emily's presentations, offering quiet but heartfelt support. At one such event, he found himself tearing up as Emily unveiled a campaign that blended art and storytelling in a way that moved the audience. During the applause, Peter leaned over and whispered, "You're incredible." Emily acknowledged his words with a nod, her gratitude evident but restrained. Their relationship was still rebuilding, and while Peter's efforts were noticeable, trust wasn't yet fully restored. A sudden health scare involving Peter's father brought the couple closer. Sitting in the hospital waiting room, they reflected on the fragility of life. "I've spent so much time chasing success, but none of it matters if I lose what's important," Peter admitted. Emily, holding his hand, replied, "Realizing that is the first step. Now, act on it." The crisis became a turning point for Peter, pushing him to prioritize not just Emily but also his family and well-being. Emily took a bold step, launching her own creative agency. It was a daunting endeavor, but her reputation ensured she had clients from day one. Peter, recognizing the magnitude of her achievement, became her staunchest advocate. At the agency's launch party, Peter delivered a heartfelt speech. "This agency isn't just a business," he said. "It's a testament to resilience, vision, and the power of believing in oneself. Emily, you've taught me more than I could ever express." In an effort to reconnect, Peter suggested revisiting places from their early days together. They returned to the park where they had their first date, the cafe where they shared dreams, and the small apartment they called home as newlyweds. These trips stirred bittersweet memories, reminding them of how far they had come and how much they had changed. Emily reflected, "It's good to remember who we were, but I'm proud of who we're becoming." Emily's agency faced a major challenge when a high-profile campaign fell through due to a miscommunication with the client. The setback shook her confidence, but Peter stood by her, offering a listening ear and practical advice. "You've faced worse," he reminded her. "This is just a stumble, not a fall." With renewed determination, Emily regrouped her team and salvaged the project, turning the failure into a learning experience. Peter and Emily found a rhythm that worked for them. Peter learned to balance his career with supporting Emily's ambitions, while Emily discovered the strength in letting Peter share in her successes. They began making time for simple joys, cooking together, traveling, and reconnecting with friends. Their relationship wasn't perfect, but it was real. The foundation they rebuilt was stronger because it was built on mutual respect and understanding. Emily prepared for her agency's biggest launch, a campaign for a multinational client that would redefine her career. She invited Peter to share the stage with her during the unveiling. "Why me?" he asked, hesitant. "Because you're part of this journey," Emily said. "You've helped me grow, even if it wasn't always in ways you intended. Now, let's celebrate together." The agency launch event was packed with industry leaders, all eager to see Emily's latest work. As she stood on stage, the spotlight shining on her, she addressed the audience with confidence. "This agency is more than a business. It's a celebration of growth, resilience, and the belief that no voice should remain unheard." Peter, seated in the front row, watched her with a mix of pride and humility. When Emily invited him to join her on stage, he hesitated, unsure if he belonged in her moment of triumph. "Peter," she said, her voice steady, "you've been part of this journey too. Let's celebrate together." As they stood side by side, the applause thundered around them. For Emily, it was a moment of victory. For Peter, it was a lesson in humility. Together, they had transformed their story from one of silence and oversight to one of partnership and growth, a reminder that even in the face of deep wounds, healing and hope are always possible.